Hi, Phil Aston here from nowspinning.co.uk, also on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. This little video is going to look at a box set by The Babies, which came out towards the end of 2019. They're one of my favourite groups, and the reason being for the vocals of John Waite. I know not everyone may agree, but to me he's in the same ballpark as Paul Rodgers. He has such an emotional and expressive and soulful voice. I'll admit that I haven't kept up with everything he's done in the last decade or so, but through the 70s and 80s and through the 90s I just bought everything that he did, and I don't think he's ever bettered the music he made with this band called The Babies. And so when I saw this box set advertised, I just thought, yes, I have to have that. Now there's some good bits to it and there's some frustrating parts to it, really. I've got all their albums on vinyl, and I've also bought the remastered CDs, which were on BGO records to start with, and then Rock Candy also released some remasters very recently actually, which are also fantastic. So let's look in the box and then I'll talk about what my thoughts are. Okay, so this is the box. It's a nice glossy clamshell box, which opens out, and the first thing, which is becoming very common now with these kind of box sets, there's no booklet. They've decided to put together a kind of a poster with information on it. So we have this fold out thing that shows you some of the singles that came out, every time I think of you, Have You Got the Time, and of course Piece of the Action, and Isn't It Time was obviously the song that introduced me to the band. And on the back is just basically track listings, white font on a pale blue background, which doesn't make it the easiest thing to read, with a picture of the band in the background from the first album, and some basically listings on the spare tracks, etc. Now to me this is a bit of a cop-out. They haven't had to employ a writer, they haven't had to do much research. It's just a piece of paper, and some box sets now don't even really have one of these, but a booklet would have been very good, to be honest, because I think one of the problems is with these things is there's no researchers on board and they miss things out, which is what I'm going to come to. The first Babies album was simply called The Babies, and it came out in 1976, and it was produced by Bob Ezrin, which was an unusual choice for his background with Alice Cooper and Kiss, because this Babies were nothing like that at all. And to be honest, it isn't. After all these years, I actually don't like this very much, apart from Dying Man, the last track, which was on side 2, and Looking for Love, which is a repetitive riff for opening track. It doesn't really do them justice on what they were about, really. So I didn't know about this album until the second one came along, and even now this is not the best place to start. So whereas a lot of bands they've been demoing for ages, and this band had actually, which I'll come on towards the end of this video, but that's not the best place to start. Where I came in was this one, which was Broken Heart, a year later. This one was produced by Rendezvous, who actually did quite a bit of work for UFO as well, and it's absolutely drenched in strings, which is what he did with UFO, and he probably did it because of what he did with The Babies. This is where it contains their first hit, Isn't It Time, which you can see on YouTube and all over the place, and it's to me it's a fantastic song. They did all the rock star posturing on Top of the Pops going back all those years, and girly singers and stuff, as I said, but lots of strings, but I just loved it. And I think Wrong or Right, Give Me Your Love, which is the B-side, The Golden Mile, Broken Heart, I'm Falling, Rescue Me, A Piece of the Action. To me this is an absolute classic album. I think it just sounds absolutely brilliant, so I can't not recommend that one enough. If you're into AOR, melodic rock, and this is the mid-70s, it's fantastic. The next one that comes along is Head First, which for many people was probably the pinnacle of what they did. Also by Ron Neverson, they reduced themselves to a 3-piece for this, but this really has some of their finest songs on it. Love Don't Prove Me Right, Every Time I Think of You, which is absolutely stunning. Head First, You Got It, Please Don't Leave Me Here, and California. and of course the Run to Mexico track. And this is where it becomes a bit peculiar, because there were some extra tracks done during this period, and although there are extra tracks on this CD, the ones that I thought they'd include, they haven't. And I think it's an absolute lost opportunity. There's also a different mix of Run to Mexico. One's got a crowd noise on and the other hasn't, and I don't understand why they've changed that. But I'll come back to that in a moment. And then they started to hit the big league with Union Jacks, and they became more of an arena rock band. And also you've got Jonathan Cain, who went on to become famous in Journey, joins them on this, so his songwriting has appeared. So they're a much more polished band. Back on Your Feet Again, Midnight Rendezvous, absolutely great track. And this is the one where I think when this one came out in 1980, this is one I was playing to my friends and said, you've got to get into the Babies, because they really had arrived as a really highly polished 80s rock band at this stage. Unfortunately, internal conflict meant that the next one, which should have been the breakthrough album, faltered a bit. It's still in the same lines of Union Jacks, very polished pop rock material with Jonathan Cain again, but they kind of lose their edge a little bit on this one. There are some great tracks on it, Sweet 17, Darker Side of Town, etc., Downtown, but it just doesn't quite catch it to me. So the real reason that I bought this box is for this one, which is the live album from 77, which never was released, and also the Unofficial Babies album from 1975. Now this is has never been released on CD ever. I have it on vinyl, and you wouldn't know it was the same band. Some of the tracks did end up on the first album and also Broken Heart, but you wouldn't recognise them. They were basically a heavy rock band in 75. And how they got their deal was they basically polished themselves up and did a video and got signed by Chrysalis, who saw them as a pop group. So the official Babies album from 75, that's why I bought this. They are more of a heavy rock band on this, very different. Some of those songs never made it any further than that. So my disappointment with this is the fact that yes, you do get lots of extra tracks, but they're basically mono mixes and stuff like that, which always makes them a bit suspicious. There was a live EP in 1980. Those tracks have been added, which is good, on the Union Jacks album, which is very good. But what's missing, you can only find on this album by John Waite, which is called Essential John Waite, which basically was released in 1992, but it has Love Is a Rose to Me, and also, what's the other one? World in a Bottle, which were two tracks recorded during the Headfirst sessions, but which they could have stuck on. Chrysalis have helped with this box set, so they were there. So it's a bit annoying that, well, I thought they would have found more material, or even got the ones from here and stuck them on this box. It would have made all the difference. So you are kind of caught up with the fact there is another live album from Denver, which they could have got some tracks from that. And of course, if you really want more information, you've got the Rock Candy remasters, which, as we all know with Rock Candy, you get very detailed booklets with lots of memorabilia and interviews with all the band. And John Waite was involved with all of these, so it's a shame that somebody couldn't have given him a quick call to see how he felt about the albums again. Perhaps he was just fed up with talking about them. But I think what's disappointing to me is the fact that, especially for Head First, which is an absolute classic album, that they couldn't have stuck on the unreleased tracks and made it more complete. So when you have a box set that says the complete Babies collection, it actually isn't. So that does irk me a tad, I have to say. So if you are a Babies fan, then it is worth getting, and it's about £22 on Amazon at the moment. But as I say, you probably need to buy this and the Essential John Waite, if you can track down a copy on eBay, to make sure you have got everything that they did. Okay, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.